Wowzers, if a good main event doesn't paper over some massive cracks in a pay-per-view. That was pretty special, the last 20 minutes of SummerSlam. The finish was maybe a little bit iffy, but the actual match itself, we've just seen the proper arrival of Braun Strowman. It's been building over the last year, but that match, we saw that Braun Strowman is an absolute, proper, true WWE superstar. Not the way they use the word superstar. He's just a star. Absolutely star of the pay-per-view. He's the best thing that's happened to wrestling in years. He's put Brock Lesnar through 2 tables, put another table over the top of him. These are announced tables, not those poxy little decorating tables that they normally use on these kind of things. The man left on a stretcher. He's throwing chairs around all over the place. He kicked out of a pin, pushing Reigns up into a standing position. Braun Strowman was superb. They didn't put the title on him, which is fine, provided we now finally get the Brock Lesnar Braun Strowman feud we were always rumoured to be getting going into SummerSlam. And now, through the build that they've gone for over the last however many months, rather than it just being, right, let's feed Strowman to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam like the original plan probably would have been, now Strowman needs to win the title when they finally get their match, whenever that match may be. We always suspected Lesnar probably wouldn't be losing because we didn't really expect him to be leaving WWE, so the result is probably the right one. But, wow, what a performance from Braun Strowman. But, as I hinted at earlier on, the excitement and the enthusiasm that I've got in my voice talking about the main event doesn't really reflect what we saw on the rest of a 6-hour pay-per-view experience. Goodness me, was that a long time. So long, in fact, that if I travel back 6 hours in time to that first match, which was, I think, 20 minutes after they opened the doors to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, to have The Miz and the Miztourage against the Hardys and Jason Jordan. There were about 9 people in attendance for that match. It's an absolute insult to the Hardys that they would put them in a match like that. It's an insult to the Miz. They're both better than that. By all means, have the Miztourage against Jason Jordan in front of 9 people. But the Miz and the Hardys are supposed to be right up there, your top stars in the company. And it was just a weird match, a weird result. Why you put that 6-man tag on and then have the Miz come out of it with the victory, it doesn't really do anything for anybody. The Hardys would have been better off just not having a SummerSlam match at all if that's the best we can do for them. 4 months ago, they got the biggest pop of the night at WrestleMania on their return. And now they're the opening show on the pre-show, taking a defeat against a team that's got Bo Dallas in it. That's been an unexpected 4 months of the Hardys. 6 months ago, they were the hottest property in wrestling. Where on earth did it all go wrong for the Hardys? But that was a little bit weird. And then more weirdness because we had Neville defeating Tozawa to win back the Cruiserweight title, 5 days after he lost it on Raw. Why did he lose it? I could understand if you were going to have a big, grandstand, awesome pay-per-view match and have him win it back. I could kind of forgive that. But no, just a pre-show match. It was a good match. It was a good... Neville always puts on a good match. Tozawa works well with him. It was a good match, but it was on the pre-show. And it just felt like they had Tozawa win the title on Raw to extend the feud. But if they hadn't have had the match in the first place, they wouldn't need to extend the feud because the match was already booked for SummerSlam. So you could have just not had them fight on Raw and just gone into the match at SummerSlam like you're always supposed to. And now Neville's got the title back again. When I kind of thought, well, if they're taking the title off him, at least he moves back onto the main roster and can grab the Intercontinental title or something. But no, he's got the Cruiserweight title again. And that was just a weird 5-6 days where he didn't hold it. And then we got another title change on the pre-show in one of the best matches of the night, certainly until we started to get towards the last 3 matches of the main card. Usos versus New Day. Winning the tag team titles, the SmackDown tag titles, back off the New Day. It was a really, really good match. And it was the last really good wrestling match that we saw for about 2 hours. And I don't get why that was on the pre-show when some of the absolute dross that followed on the first couple of hours of SummerSlam didn't get relegated to the pre-show. Now, talking of dross, I'm gonna try and get through this stuff as quickly as I possibly can, because oh dear, this didn't need to be a 4-hour pay-per-view. There's some filler on here, everybody. John Cena against Baron Corbin. Has Baron Corbin finished being punished yet, or does he now just get released? Because he's gone from being the Money in the Bank holder a week ago and everyone assuming Nakamura wins the title, Corbin cashes in, there's your SummerSlam story to Corbin's an idiot who's lost his Money in the Bank, and now he's just lost clean. He's basically been squashed by John Cena, and I don't know where you go with Baron Corbin from here. They've destroyed him. They've spent 2 years building him up through the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, through the Money in the Bank briefcase, and they've just destroyed him in a week. He'll be gone by Survivor Series, surely. I don't know what he did. It can't just be for his Twitter hissy fit. There must be something more behind the scenes there, because if not, that's an incredible overreaction to a couple of tweets. Natalya beat Naomi, which is another one that I don't really get. Naomi was a good champion. She's got a great entrance. She had the customised title. I imagine she was selling an absolute ton of merchandise with the luminous wigs and the pretty coloured belts and all that stuff. And Natalya, it's just Natalya. We've been here before. She's been around since I was a lad. Probably not quite, but, you know, she's been around a long time. She doesn't need a title. The title doesn't need her. It doesn't really make sense with Carmella as the Money in the Bank holder, because you've now got a heel champion and a heel Money in the Bank holder. So why that doesn't make any sense. Carmella's nowhere to be seen. She's on the pre-show talking about cashing in and whatnot, and then just doesn't appear at all on the main SummerSlam card. So why has she got a briefcase? And Natalya's now champion, and unless they're going to do some kind of draft or shake-up thing and move people around and it makes sense what plan they've got for Naomi and what plan they've got for Natalya going forward, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we had Naomi with the title again by the end of the month, because it just, I don't know, it just felt like maybe it was a moment of reward for Natalya after all her years' service. Here you go, have a big pay-per-view win. We're probably going to start moving you on now, but have a big pay-per-view win. Thank you, you've been great. I don't know. I don't see her holding it for a long time, and it seems weird when there's so many title changes going on. I mean, there was, what, 6 title changes on the show as a whole? It kind of watered down the effect of Natalya picking up a title as well. And then we had the shark cage match, which, firstly, I don't know why Enzo's in a shark cage. I don't know why Big Cass and Big Show are fighting each other. I don't know. Enzo took off all his clothes, greased himself up and squeezed through the bars of the shark cage. But then instead of leaping down onto Cass and like doing a move on him, he gingerly lowers himself down, gently drops himself, dangles there for a minute so Cass can really see him, drops down into the ring, eats a boot, and then within 30 seconds, Big Show's taken the pin. And it felt like the only reason Enzo was in the cage was so that he could mess around greasing himself up with the camera on him, and it would distract from the fact that Big Show and Big Cass were just having a really boring, really slow wrestling match for far too long. And the whole thing felt incredibly unnecessary, and I was just sat there the whole time thinking we could have had Neville to Tozawa, we could have had the Usos on the New Day, and the New Day, we could have had a proper Hardys match or a proper Miz match, but no, we've got Big Show on a pay-per-view getting beaten by Big Cass while a little fella is in a cage above him, stripping down to his underwear and oiling himself up. I don't understand. And then we had the Randy Orton squash match on Rusev, where Orton comes out, Rusev attacks him. There's, oh, we don't even know if we'll be able to start the match. Is Orton going to be fit to continue? Oh, I don't know. We might not be able to do it. He's just rolling around on the floor, barely conscious. Bell rings, RKO, boom, everything's done. Rusev has now lost on successive pay-per-views to John Cena and Randy Orton, 2 veterans who should be putting over the young up-and-coming talent like Rusev, but no, they're just feeding Rusev to the guys who want pay-per-view wins for no reason. Makes no sense. Someone said on Twitter that it was Randy Orton getting his payback for what happened to him at SummerSlam last year. I thought he already had that in his title run. This was just, we don't know what to do with Rusev. Let's just have him keep losing to people. When, if you want a big heel champion like they've got with Jinder Mahal, why didn't they just move Rusev up into that spot? Why move him to SmackDown in the first place if you're just going to have him lose to Randy Orton and John Cena and whoever they're going to have him lose to next? He's only marginally above Baron Corbin on the ranks of is anyone any good on SmackDown at the moment, and it's all a little bit of a mess. And then we got a pretty decent match initially. Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss for the women's title. Sasha Banks won the match, and it was interesting. I thought this was going really well. They were starting to tell a good story. Alexa had injured Sasha's shoulder, so she was, oh, my shoulder hurts, I can't put the bank statement on properly. They're telling a really good story here. This is really clever. We're going to have Sasha overcome a shoulder injury. She can't use her finisher, but she's going to overcome, and she's going to defeat the nasty heel anyway, despite a deliberate injury to cut out her finisher. But no, she didn't even have it locked in properly, and Alexa's tapping for, I just don't know. It felt like someone had tapped them on the shoulder and said, ladies, this match has gone on a little bit too long. Forget all this good storytelling and decent wrestling that you're doing. Can we just wrap things up? Yeah, if you could just tap out right now. She doesn't need to have the move on properly. Just tap. Just tap. It was weird. And we've got a new women's champion on Raw, as well as on SmackDown. I don't know. And then we had Demon King Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt. I think, judging from what I saw on Twitter, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world who prefers normal cool guy Finn Balor in a leather jacket to Demon Finn Balor, who's basically Finn Balor in Boogeyman cosplay, and just lots of teeth, lots of crawling around on the floor. I'm going to come out and out-weird Bray Wyatt, and that's all it really was. We had some typical WWE 50-50 booking. It's the only reason that they had Wyatt defeat Balor on Raw or SmackDown. I don't even know which show they're on. Raw on Monday night, just so that they could have the result flipped around again here on SummerSlam. And the only bit of story they attempted to put in there was, yeah, but Bray Wyatt did that thing where he drops down onto his back and is like an inside-out, upside-down spider, and Finn Balor wasn't scared, and that threw Bray Wyatt off. What? Randy Orton wasn't scared when he did that earlier in the year. There's dozens of wrestlers who haven't been scared of a man crawling around on his back, but for some reason, because the guy in the face paint wasn't scared, his whole world falls apart. He takes the defeat. I didn't really make any sense. It was a really weird, pointless feud, a really weird match. I don't know if they're going to do the Demon King thing. It would be nice as a surprise. Don't announce it a week in advance, and just don't do it at all. Just have him be cool and maybe lead a faction, because that's what he's good at. Who am I to say? And then we had the other tag titles change hands. So we had Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins defeat Sheamus and Cesaro for the Raw tag team titles. It was a good story. This has been one of the better build-ups to a story at SummerSlam. It was a good story, a good match. I can get on board with Ambrose and Rollins holding the titles for a little while. Presumably they'll feud with Sheamus and Cesaro for a little while. One of them will win the feud. I don't know which. It doesn't really matter which way it goes, whether Sheamus and Cesaro eventually get the titles back, or whether Rollins and Ambrose have them for a little bit longer and maybe go and feud with someone else afterwards. But presumably when they lose the titles, they're going to feud with each other, probably with Ambrose turning heel, or Rollins could, or it keeps 4 good guys occupied so that you can do other stuff in the world title picture. That's fine with me. I do worry a little bit what the Hardys are going to be up to while all this is going on, because they're the proper tag team on Raw, and the tag team titles are being fought between 4 singles upper mid card, like close to main event guys, and the proper tag team doesn't even get on the show. So you're going to split the Hardys up? Is that where we're going with this? Are we going to have a Hardy feud to break them, or I don't really know. It was strange. AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens was fine. It wasn't the match I was hoping for or expecting from these two. We had a few spots where Shane got involved and little shoves and back and forths with both of them, and a little bit of a controversial finish where Owens thought he'd pinned Styles, but he had his feet up on the ropes, and Shane almost countered it and then ruled out his count, and then ended up pushing Kevin Owens, and that led to Styles getting the win. Kevin Owens looks really weird in a Styles clash, by the way. It just doesn't look like it. Doesn't look very threatening because of the weird way he gets contorted into position. The body weight distribution between the two of them is all off. And I don't know, I hoped for better from the two of them. I thought this would be the match that was brilliant, and it was a good match. It didn't steal the show, though, like I thought it could and should, and hopefully this is the end of this feud now, and they can both go on and get on with something else with someone else. For example, maybe AJ Styles can now finally take on Shinsuke Nakamura, because that was a waste of time putting him in the world title picture, wasn't it? Because Jinder Mahal's beaten him for the WWE title clean. After, on successive episodes of SmackDown, we've had Mahal lose clean to Cena, who Nakamura beat, and then have him... No, he lost to Randy Orton, didn't he? And then Cena pretty much beat him, but Baron Corbin got involved. But either way, we've had Mahal pretty much lose 2 weeks in a row against those pesky rascals again, Randy Orton and John Cena. You remember them. They're the ones who were ruining Rusev. And despite all that, he beats Nakamura. Yeah, there's a little bit of interference from the Sings, but they're not directly involved in the finish. And it just seems like a little bit of a waste. Nakamura never should have been in this match in the first place. It wasn't the right time to move him into the WWE title picture. And they didn't follow through on it anyway. I don't know if the plan ever was to put the title on him. I suspect the plan originally, like I mentioned before, was to have him win the title, then have Corbin cash in, and then continue the Nakamura-Corbin feud. But I guess that's all done now, and they're now going to have to... It looks very much like on SmackDown they've got to desperately scratch around and start piecing a few bits together, and the only good that might come out of it is that one or both of Owens and Styles can now move forward into the proper main event picture. Surely. But who knows. And then we finish things off with the aforementioned excellent Fatal 4-Way match that was just a really, really, really strong match and made the pay-per-view feel a lot better than it actually was. If you go through these matches one by one, there's a lot of filler, and that's a lot of filler on a show where the pre-show matches that I keep going on about couldn't get onto the show. So a little bit of weird booking, too many matches, far too long. It's 4:20 in the morning as I'm recording this, so I need to sign off, upload this and go to bed because WWE have stolen my sleep. And if you've enjoyed that, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the video, whether this is the sort of thing you'd like to see on the channel a little bit more often, what you'd do differently, what you thought of SummerSlam. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and thank you very much for watching.